I'm Bob Cringely, and I'm, I guess, a blogger. I don't even like the word blogging, but I'm begrudgingly one because I work on a blogging system, and everyone thinks it's a blog, and therefore it's a blog. But I come from traditional journalism. I started working at newspapers when I was 14, and 42 years later, I'm still effectively doing it, only I print my own paper made of electrons. There are two approaches to blogging. The guy who invented blogging is Dave Weiner, who also invented RSS syndication. And Dave started writing this thing on his website where he was just pointing to things that he'd read on the web that he thought were interesting and other people might enjoy. So blogging per se began as being referential. It's, look at this, read that, and very little from the actual blogger himself about his thoughts other than linking these points together. And that's what blogging is still for a lot of people, but there's a sort of convergence between traditional journalism and blogging where the people who actually think and write are beginning to merge with the people who read and point. And I'm a thinker-writer, not a reader-pointer. A blogger, if he or she is going to be successful, has to know what they're writing about and has to be fairly disciplined about it and consistent. And so traditionally, I've written about technology because I come from a technical background and I came from the computer industry, so I write about computers and the internet. This happens to be an economic bloggers conference, and I'm in that because I've sort of moved into writing about the business of technology, and huge things happen in the economy that affect the technology business, and I can't not comment on them. I think the state of innovation is good. I think the role of entrepreneurship is what it has always been in this culture, which is much more developed than it is in other cultures. America has a continued advantage in this area. I think at the same time, we've gotten bogged down in a number of ways. The venture capital industry, our venture capital industry is highly developed and highly inefficient. And they can talk endlessly about they're funding this and they're funding that, but basically they're just throwing it against the wall, and what sticks makes them money, and what doesn't, doesn't. And right now the venture capital industry is in trouble because their returns after 20, 30 years of spectacular success, their returns are in the toilet. And so if we could only, get the sort of Kauffman kind of characters who are truly innately smart, know what they're doing, know why they're doing it, and know what their goals are, we'd have a lot better success. As for the role of entrepreneurism, it's what builds jobs. It's what creates new industries. And we are right now in a financial crisis that's based on this determination we have that old industries are too big to die. Well, that's crazy. They're too big to survive. And so they probably should die or be transformed into something else. And the only way that can be done even remotely efficiently is through entrepreneurism, because something's got to rise from those ashes and take over the responsibility for all those jobs. The little kernel that's right inside entrepreneurism is, I have a new idea, and I'm going to do things in a new way, and people are going to benefit from it, and I will then be rewarded. And we don't hear that. What we're hearing right now is, how do we preserve something that's already failed? How do we prop it up and keep it going long enough for these people to get their bonuses? Which makes no sense, none whatsoever. So what we need are better ideas. And then we need to find the right people to implement those ideas. We're facing a very interesting structural change in our education world. Some people think we're educating students for in a world that doesn't exist anymore. But it goes beyond that. What we're doing actually is we are educating students in a way that isn't appropriate for the world we have. As a technical nation, we are at a point where all the students in school today were exposed to computers their entire lives. But more importantly than that, I mean, these kids, they had a computer, they had a cell phone, they had an iPod or an MP3 player or something like that. They were exposed to all of this technology for their entire life. My 2-year-old came up to me the other day and said, please, I want to go to pbskids.org/cyberchase. He's 2, and he said this. So we typed it in exactly as he said it, and we got there, so he got it right. And so these kids have been exposed to that. But much more importantly, for the most part, so have their parents. Parents in their 20s now grew up in an era with personal computers, with cell phones, with a lot of personal technology and the ability to gather information in a different way. Well, we're reaching a point now where there's a disconnect between the new generation of parents and the old generation of teachers and administrators, especially administrators. And when the school board says, all right, we need another bond issue, we're going to need another high school, those 27-year-old parents are going to say, why do we need another high school? Why do we need another library? Why don't we just get more computers? Now, if you can do high school online and it is as good or better than the high school that my kids could go to, why don't I go to that high school? Get in my RV, cruise the nation, and, using Wi-Fi, go to school. Well, we're going to see that. So this leads to a displacement of student populations. I think there are huge changes that we're just starting to get inklings of now. And they're all technology-driven, but it takes a generation for that to become inbred, in the population. And so I'd say the next 10 years, 10 years from now, education will be completely different. And many things will be completely different. And we're not planning with that in mind. I think we are thinking not far enough ahead. And we're not counting on these things that come from nowhere, which is the way our culture advances. And every one of those things that comes from nowhere comes from an entrepreneur.